Now you have to listen to somebody from Indonesia, all the way from Indonesia, and talking about plastic waste pollution. How exciting that is, huh? Unbelievable. So I would like to definitely thank the Economic Times, The Edge, and then the World We Want to invite me all the way from Indonesia. Why Indonesia, and why do we talk about plastic waste pollution? Well, they say Indonesia is a polluter number 2, that plastic with leaks to the ocean. So we definitely got a lot of heat internationally. So we are taking the issue very, very seriously. And then, so Greenhope here, what I'm going to talk about is really 2 things. One is broadly, what is our findings so far? What is the research based on our research, based on our experience in 15 countries, discussing, collaborating with governments, with NGOs, with companies, in trying to solve this huge, massive problem, which is the plastic waste pollution. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about Greenhope itself, how our solution fits into the entire ecosystem of the solution that we have to bear. So we know this, and we get tired of seeing this. Why do we seem unable to fix it? So the first picture here, upper left, is in Bali. Underwater now, because of GoPro, we're able to see how much we're treating our ocean like toilets. So what that means is that all these items floating, and there's no way, simply no way, that the animals, the sea animals, the whales and all can survive in such a condition. So this video got uploaded and got our president a lot of heat, that he sent divers to look for those trash that actually float around, and during any given day will flood the beaches of Bali. And that continues on and on and on. So the second top right is basically hard pieces of plastics. If you see a lot of flexible film, hard pieces of plastic that is inside the bird's stomach. So if you Google up a movie called Plastic Pollution, Plastic Waste Pollution, Plastic Island, I think you can see how much the stomach of the birds were flooded with hard pieces of plastics. These birds die in hundreds. So this starts to get really us scared. Are we looking at the end of times here? It starts to feel like the end of times in all our holy books. And then these are actually just a prop with our brothers and sisters in the Philippines, where they literally project. And that is a typical landfill, and I pulled that picture actually in a typical Indian landfill. Indonesian landfill is not that different as well. So suffice to say, this is a very serious problem. And if we don't solve this, we could end up being a species that really produce and consume ourselves to death, literally. So it's that urgent, and I always tell people who we work with, even factories, plastic factories who've been there for 40 years, they'll be like, Tommy, we've seen this before, things not gonna change, things will go as usual. No, they were highly mistaken. The new generation, the millennials, the young people, our kids in schools, they get really, really properly educated. When they decide that our product, the excess of our product is no longer attractive, your business is finished upstream here. When the downstream people, the user decides. So it's not only a moral imperative, it's also a business survival imperative. That's how important it is. So it's actually present not only a risk, but how we see it, we like to see it as an opportunity. But it's also not a straightforward opportunity, because as I delve deeper, more and more, my partner, actually the scientist in Greenhope, his hair is all white, I don't have any hair. That's how tough the problem is. You really have to think through the problem very seriously. Why? We have to appreciate the complexity of one of the biggest disruptions. It's one of the biggest transitions recently, because the world has been using and fall in love with plastic the last 40 years. Arguably, it's one of the best green from creation perspective, actually, and highly functional and cheap. Who doesn't like that kind of model, right? So it's really the world fall in love, and we're consuming about 300 to 400 million tons every year. And that means 25 million containers. Doesn't even fit in our mind how to imagine that. And then, when it becomes a waste, those plastics will stay around for another 80 years, 100 years, 500 years. So literally, we're injecting our planet with plastic every single year through our consumption. And there's no doubt, we've looked at the data, we've looked at how the last 3 years, I'm involved in World Economic Forum, I'm a Schwab social entrepreneur, and we see United Nations, we see World Bank, we see everybody dealing with this. Happy to say, that I believe the world will deal with plastic waste pollution faster than it does with climate change. Why? Because the perceived danger is more real, more immediate. It gets into our water, it gets into our food, it kills all our animal. It's just way faster rather than, sometimes climate change just feels like, oh, it gets a little bit warm here, and then, but different island, different country, unfortunately, who suffer. So between polluter and the ones who suffer are different. But plastic will definitely be dealt with differently. And we see changing the material itself is not enough. So we are in the biggest transition here. The change needs to happen not only in the material, but mindset, the lifestyle. But this transition, this disruption creates a lot of uncertainties, a lot of emotions, a lot of momentum for status quo that really don't like this to happen. So we kind of like squeeze in the middle as social entrepreneurs, The status quo really don't like us think that we're source of the problem. And then fellow green people also talk bad about each other. So that's what's happening sometimes. So it creates a lot of confusion. There's also a big collision between activists and industries. Industry sees activists like, oh, you only protest, and ban, but you have no solution. And then the activists look at the business, yeah, you only want to make money. So there's no productive debates, productive collaboration. That has to stop, because otherwise we will never find the right solution if this is how we do it. There's a lot of trial and error policies with unintended consequences. Even when I was in Kenya presenting to a minister there, and they were like, they banned the single-use shopping bag, right? So we asked, okay, Mr. Minister, what do you use now? And don't know. Okay, let's go to the market. Came down, all the market, and look, well, they still use these feels like thread, but it's actually polypropylene non-woven bag, right? It's plastic, it's thicker, and people don't use it. From energy perspective, they're supposed to use it 50 times to 100 times, but they only use it 3 times, and then it torn, and then they throw it away. Then the waste perspective, actually the amount of plastic actually goes up instead of goes down. From a objective perspective, totally missed it. But I believe that that's part of the trial and error, which is fine, but we just need to be thoughtful about this and be thinking about this. And unfortunately, I have to say it, there's no silver bullet. If somebody's trying to tell you, I have a silver bullet to solve plastic waste problem, somebody's selling you drugs, basically medicine. Because we look at everything. We look at all solutions have strengths and limitations. If we look at recycling, one of the biggest news in recycling last year was in January 1st, when China decided, I want to stop recycling the world's plastic waste, right? And then we found out, Dr. Jenna Jambek created a report saying that apparently developed countries, when they say circular economy, they put 70% of their plastic waste to China to be recycled there. So that's pretty big circle. But that creates a lot of water problems because you need a lot of water, and then the excess of it can be full of microplastics, and then it creates a lot of residue problem that creates another social problem in the landfills. So it's not easy. It's not easy. So recycling is definitely part of the solution, but it doesn't come without a cost. Biodegradable solution, they say, we tested it, we put it in the bag, it doesn't really biodegrade. You claim it's biodegrade. What's going on? So because this is so new, depends on which biodegradable solution you're talking about, and depends on what supporting environment to make it biodegradable. Does the supporting environment exist? So this also a good solution in our view, but it's definitely it needs a supporting environment to make it happen. Of course, in Europe, Europe already moved into mostly post-oil economy. So as much as possible, even any future material is post-oil. So they don't like anything that is depending on oil. So let's ban all the single-use plastic that based from oil. Either we move to bioplastic, or if we fully recycle it, or we compostable it. Recycle, incineration. This is by a prominent NGO, here's Gaia, including gasification, pyrolysis, plasma. It's not a viable solution, it's harmful. So the gas and everything, of course there are technologies to mitigate that, but all I'm saying is we need to take a deep look at it. Everything has a price. Exactly the same technology when we move it into Indonesia, because Indonesia, the waste is wet and the weather is so humid, it's actually caused problem also. So what is the solution then? Our solution is that we do need to, as a society, we do need to reduce. And we need to reuse where we can. All our private stuff, we reuse it. We bring our own bags, we bring our own bottles. But there's a lot of things that is in FMCG world serving the middle and bottom tier of the pyramid. They do need packaging. And they do need healthy hygiene packaging. So that packaging is still a little bit tough. Then the solution would be either recycle, or in some of the big cities, return to earth through degradable and recover. So that's what's the solution. And we have to think through the whole life cycle to consider what green is green. It's not enough to look into the perspective of the waste only. You change to paper, then you end up with burn so many more trees. So we need to be thoughtful on that. And of course, different countries will have different analysis and different solution that is contextual. So I'm gonna, run a little bit fast here. So both of us, we are social entrepreneurs here. We are in World Economic Forum. We really study these issues very, very hard. We really study the issues from the bottom up, which is we'd like to think ourselves as solutions provider and like a doctor. We need to understand the sickness before we prescribe the right solution. It's not like the same drug everywhere. So that's why we have the 3 solution that we patented. Is a biodegradable solution all the way from the bioplastic that is from using cassava tapioca that has no conventional plastic at all inside and biodegrades faster, all the way that additive that makes regular plastic can oxidize and biodegrades faster, but it does need the sun or the heat and everything. So all these solution has plus and minus, and we are glad partnering with some strong brands in Southeast Asia, and we've been in many countries. And as you see, India, we're still not here, so we look for the right partners who can really, together with the government, with the NGOs, trying to figure out what is the right solution for India. And we'll be happy and privileged if we can be part of the solution for it. There's no truly other way. We all need to work together, people, planet, to choose prosperity and partnership. I pulled this actually from the event website, which I fully subscribe to this. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share our story.